Now, as many of you know, there have been fantastic advancements in lens manufacturing technology. So companies like Viltrox have become major players in the lens market. So Viltrox is right up there with Sigma and Tamron, and people ask me often, who is next? Who is the next company that will become a Viltrox? And in my opinion, my not so humble opinion, it is this one right here. Just look at this side by side. We have a Sony 35mm f1.8. This is an $848 lens USD. Right next to it is the Meike 35mm f1.8 for $379. That is less than half the price of that Sony lens, and in fact, it is better than that Sony lens in almost every way. Check out this photo right here of our gorgeous model and handsome Allie. If we zoom in, we see when it comes to sharpness, the Meike is actually sharper than that Sony 35, and that is a testament to the Meike lens because that Sony 35 is plenty sharp. We need to talk about this. Throughout this video, I'm going to be comparing the Meike 35 to the Sony 35. This Sony is one of my favorite lenses of all time, so you will have a nice baseline to see what the Meike can do at its price point. Because this video is sponsored by Meike. They wanted me to display this lens for you, so let that factor in where it may, but I will just show you my regular tests, my regular charts. Meike's really great about sponsorships. They don't ask to see the video, they don't preview the video, they just say go ahead and make your video. We have confidence in our product. I like it. I'll let you guys see the tests and decide for yourself if this is a lens that you think is worth it. And this is a full-frame autofocus lens, and the autofocus is fantastic, as good as any third-party manufacturer. It keeps up with the Sony just great. It grabs your eye. It doesn't let go, whether you're in video or photos, AFC, AFS, tracking, it doesn't matter. It does a great job with autofocus, and it is pretty dead silent. You can hear it a little bit if you put your ear up to the barrel, but very, very quiet. Quieter than this Sony 35. And with focus breathing, I was pleasantly surprised that you see virtually no focus breathing with this Meike 35. The Sony 35 is quite good when it comes to focus breathing, barely any at all, but the Meike is a bit better. The reason that I wanted this 35 over the G Master lens was at the time, Sony cameras didn't have focus breathing compensation, so this had much less focus breathing than that Sony 35 G Master, so I opted for this. Plus, it saved me a ton of cash. But now new Sony cameras have focus breathing compensation, so that 35mm, it crops in a little bit on the image, but at least the focus breathing is gone. Now this 35 is not compatible with Sony's focus breathing compensation, so you get what you get with this lens, as well as every third-party manufacturer is not compatible with Sony's focus breathing compensation, but luckily you don't need any with this lens. Now I have already talked about the sharpness of this Meike lens and how it's a bit sharper than the Sony 35. However, I want to show you another photo to hammer the point home. Look at this sunflower. If we zoom in 200%, you can see the bee's leg, the hairs on the bee's legs. You can count them. Don't do it, you dirty perverts, but you could count those hairs if you wanted. I am shocked at how sharp this lens is. You see, Meike's calling this their Pro series. So it's the 35 1.8 Pro lens, and the Pro lens means it can resolve the sensors of high megapixel cameras like the A7R5 that I took that photo with, and as you can see, they are not joking. And with this Pro series of lenses, they are using fantastic coatings on the lens elements, which help control flare and glaring. If you look at these two pictures here, you see that it does fare better than the Sony 35 when it comes to flaring and ghosting. The Sony 35 is not bad at all, but the Meike is better. The Sunstars on the Meike are also much nicer than they are on the Sony lens. So if you're a fan of Sunstars, you will get the job done with this lens. Now, a trouble spot for most 35mm full-frame lenses is when it comes to chromatic aberration, the longitudinal chromatic aberration, specifically the areas in the foreground and background that are out of focus. You are going to see color cast down at f1.8 on both of these lenses. I have yet to see a 35mm full frame that doesn't have any Bokeh. Now, the Meike, once again, does a little bit better than the Sony. You can definitely see it in both lenses. If you stop them down to about f4, then that color shift goes away. So if you're trying to do landscapes, things like that, that won't be an issue. issue, but down at f1.8 in challenging circumstances, you may see some of that Bokeh. Now, an area that Sony definitely beats out the Meike is when it comes to minimum focus distance. This one, you can get 22 centimeters away from your subject, whereas the Meike lens, it's 35 centimeters away. So that is quite a distance more away. If you want to get really close to your subject and blow out the background, the Sony will be the way to go. Another area the Sony wins is when it comes to more than 15 frames per second. As most of you know, Sony caps all third-party manufacturers at 15 frames per second. So if you have an A9 Mark III and you want to take 120 frames per second, then you have to choose a Sony first-party lens. This Sony 35 can do that, and this Meike lens cannot. With Bokeh, both lenses have really nice, soft, autofocus backgrounds, but I do have to give the nod to the Meike here. It is just a little bit smoother back there, whereas the Sony, you can see a little bit more of the artifacts. So you have a slightly sharper subject with slightly smoother backgrounds. I think that's pretty impressive. The Bokeh balls on this lens are quite nice as well. Look at these balls, nice and clean and round, no haloing, no onion ringing, no mess in the center, nice and clean. Way to go, Meike. When it comes to distortion and vignetting, I think you can use the Meike photos right out of camera without any adjustments. But if you are shooting in RAW and you want to make it perfect, I would do about a +10 when it comes to distortion and about a +20 for vignette. Now, there probably will be some form of profile in programs like Lightroom where you can correct it with one click, or you can just do what I said, +10 in distortion, +20 in vignetting. But of course, that is only for your raw images. In video and JPEG, it will be corrected in camera for you. Looking at the build quality, it is made of a very hard plastic and some metal as well. A smooth turning plastic focus ring. It has an aperture ring, which I love very much. It is only clicky. There is no way to declick the aperture ring. It would be nice if Meike gave you the option to click or declick, especially on a 35, where a lot of people will like to use this for video. It also has an autofocus to manual focus switch, a large rubber gasket on the back for weather sealing, and a matching stylish petal lens hood that I think makes the lens even more attractive. You also have a 58mm filter thread on the front element. Now, the size and weight is where you get another win for the Sony. As you can see, the Meike lens is quite a bit bigger than the Sony, and let's get out our scale here and see how much they weigh. So the Meike lens weighs 403 grams, and the Sony lens weighs 280 grams. So 123 grams more is this Meike lens, and you can feel it when you are holding the two of them. So that is a win for the Sony. So I gotta tell you, I've been using the Meike 35 for the last few weeks, and it has not disappointed. I really like it for street photography. I go out with my A7R5, snap away with this guy like it's a native Sony lens. So solid, so reliable, and I know a lot of people love a 35 for full frame video, interviews, documentaries, talking head, YouTube, content creation, you name it. A lot of people love a 35 on full frame. So let me know down below what you think. Do you think this is worth $379? I certainly think while the Sony is smaller and lighter and you can shoot more than 15 frames per second, I just think that at $848, I would tell people, why don't you get a lens that's less than half the price that is better in most ways? But you let me know what you think down below. We'll have a nice little discussion about it. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.